Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. It's Thanksgiving week. I hope everybody's looking forward to the holiday, some nice quality time with family, and hopefully relaxation and a little break from work. I hope for everybody. So, I'm looking forward to it. I know for sure spending time with my family, it'll be really nice. And just being able to just, kick off the holiday season, really. So, hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's having a good start to their week. I'm very, very excited about this episode. This is a guest who we've definitely been on each other's shows a good amount of times, kind of, going back and forth on various sports related topics. He's fantastic. He has his own podcast, The Real Deal. Courtney Harden, how are you doing tonight?
Gabby, thank you for inviting me once again to the show. Like I said, I think it's like we're like family. We keep jumping on each other's show, podcast family, and but I'm doing very well. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Hope you guys enjoy the Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there too. And we're super excited to be back on the Boston Bowling show. So yeah, super excited to be back on the show.
I love that enthusiasm.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, but your show is doing tremendous. I'm a big fan of your show and of you. Of course, I know like we tell the story all the time. You jumped on my show maybe a couple of years, I think it was like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and you were interested after that. You were interested in doing a podcast, and then I just said all you need is a computer, and a computer and basically a camera on your computer, and then you're ready to record, and a microphone and record, or some headphones record, and then you just taking off. So the much success to you, and congratulations on everything. Your show was what, and you were like up top in the Argentina, was it, or something like that?
Yeah, on Apple
Yeah,
Podcasts, apparently. So
yeah. Hey,
apparently the show is a hit over there with the Argentinians.
yes, it definitely is. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a great show. Like I'm always, I love listening to the show, love all the guests you've been having, and I'm glad to be a part of it too. So, thanks again for letting me come on.
Yeah, no problem. I always appreciate our conversations and I always have so much fun when we go back and forth on each other's shows. And I love your show as well. And you bring some great guests on your show too, which before we kind of dive into everything sports related, first of all, happy Thanksgiving to your family as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday and it's relaxing and you enjoy it. So
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to eat and relax, taking that day off. That one, at least it's one day off, and can just sit back, enjoy family and some friends, and watch some football and food.
yeah, you and I both we were saying this off air before we went live here was how we both have to work on Friday and
Yeah.
I don't think everybody has to work. A lot of people don't, but I'm in the minority there, I think, that where I have to work that day.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's like what I do is it's gonna be probably be not busy at all because everybody like half of our department's gonna be off work. So and then I know some of the customers they're probably gonna be all Black Friday shopping. So why not get paid to really just sit there and kind of just do once and catch up on some things. So so I don't mind going to work on Black Friday.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it either. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a pretty chill day for me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, why don't you, before we kind of get into it, just talk to everybody about your show, how it's going, and maybe some of the guests you have coming up that you're looking forward to on the show.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's the Real Deal with Courtney Harden. It airs on all podcast platforms: Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iTunes. It's all over, Anchor and everything too. You can follow the show on Twitter at Get the Real Deal. Follow it on Facebook, facebook.com/Get the Real Deal. Also, follow me on all social media platforms. You just type Courtney Harden or The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. Everything comes up right there. It's also on BS3network.com now, and it's on Roku TV now. So if you type BS3 TV on Roku, on a Roku channel, Roku TV, now airs on Roku. So definitely give it a follow, give it a listen, and and then the next guest I got Kelly in Vegas tomorrow. Kelly Stewart. She's a sports yeah, I guess say sports gambling, sports better. She's one of the best sports bettors out there. She works for Wager Talk and Barstool Sports. So she'll be jumping on the show tomorrow. And then I think
That's
I'll
really
have,
cool.
yeah, thank you. I don't have anything else this week. I'm just going to take the rest of the week off, and then we'll get back on the grind next week with more guests. So I'm sure you'll be on there before the Christmas holiday. So be on the lookout for Gabby back on the show as well.
Yeah, I love your show. I love being on it. I think you have some great guests and you do a really good job. And,
Thank you.
Again, your show was one of the biggest reasons why I started Boston Balling in the first place. So I always, like to give you that credit for kind of inspiring me to start my show.
Well, anytime. Like I saw something when we did our first show, and I saw something, I just saw something that you had the drive, you had everything that you wanted, and you just asked for a little bit of advice, and you did the rest. I just gave you a little bit here, and you've done the rest, and now Boston Balling is a smash hit. So I'm just excited to be part of it. So, and part of your journey.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the show here. Definitely a lot to talk about, a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. Football season is very much in kind of, getting towards that home stretch with, the regular season, and games are starting to be more and more important now. And there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. First of all, shout out to my parents for giving me this nice Mac Jones jersey.
Oh, yes.
So
You got your Mac Jones.
I had
Yes.
to rep that for the show
Yeah.
tonight as well. My new quarterback of the future. So I'm happy that I'm able to show my support there. So I had to point out that little note. But I do love Mac Jones. I really like what I've seen from him so far, and I think he's going to be, he's a great quarterback for the future for the Patriots, really.
Oh my goodness, yes. And remember, I think we did our show together, might have been about 3 weeks ago or so, or maybe a month ago, and we were talking about how the Patriots, the start that they had till today, slow start, and they were in games. Like there were a couple games that we said they should have won, and they were so close against Dallas and and us and Tampa Bay, maybe games they probably should have won. But now Mac Jones, they're finally letting him actually throw the football, and they're letting him, he's not throwing 40, 50 times because that's not their game. They run in the football, they're playing solid defense, but he's not making hardly any mistakes. So, and now look at New England. They're at the top of the AFC East again. So maybe a 1 year hiatus, and then, with the Cam Newton, that whole thing just didn't work out, the experience. So now they have their quarterback. He's fits their system. And as long as he limits mistakes, and they're like an old school team. They're running the football effectively, and they're playing solid defense. And now, like I said, now they're on top of the AFC East. Who would have thought? Who would have thought this year? I figured they would be close, but man, they're right there because Buffalo's struggling. Miami and the Jets are down at the bottom, but now Buffalo's been up and down all year, and the Patriots are with Bill Belichick. They're back at the top of the AFC East.
Yeah, and I honestly, going into the season, thought the Patriots definitely had a good chance of being a wild card team, but I did not think at this point in the season that they would be leading the AFC East. I actually thought that the Bills would be leading the division all season and that they'd go on to win the division, but now it's, looking kind of like it really could go either way. They still have to play each other twice, so those games are going to be super crucial. But, the Patriots are looking really good. They're riding a 5-game winning streak right now, and everything seems to be clicking on all cylinders. The defense is looking really good. The offense is showing improvement. And, I think now that Mac Jones really is starting to feel more and more acclimated and comfortable with the Patriots system, I think there's just a lot clicking for them right now. And if they keep playing like this is a team that, could make a playoff run.
Oh, yeah, they definitely can. And the real test, as you said, is the Buffalo Bills. They got to play them twice. And, it's bad. I mean, Buffalo's had a couple of games where, they should have won. But this has been a weird season for a lot of good teams. To me, there's not really a dominant team in either conference, in the AFC or the NFC. It's like there's not that one great team. I guess you could say Arizona might be the best team from top to bottom if they're healthy, though. That just depends on their health. But they've won 2 games on a roll with Colt McCoy without Kyler Murray. So New England has a really good shot at making a run in the playoffs if they can, stay healthy, and then Mac Jones continues to improve and that offense continues to improve, it's one of those things where they can actually make a win. And Ryan Clark on ESPN, he's on board with New England. He said it 2 weeks ago. They're going to be a Super Bowl contender, and people laughed at him at that point. But I wasn't laughing. I'm thinking like they're going to definitely be a playoff contender. Because Tennessee Titans up at the top, but they just slipped up and lost last weekend and on Sunday. And then you said we have Buffalo, Baltimore. They're pretty good. They're really good at the top two. But Pittsburgh and the Browns and the Bengals, and so New England's right there up at the top in the mix. So if they win the division, I would not be surprised if they won the division.
Yeah, I mean, they play the Titans this weekend, so that's obviously going to be a tough test too. And then they have some tough games coming up. So I'm happy they were able to string together some wins, like against teams like the Falcons that they had to beat. I'm looking back to games like the Panthers, or the Texans, which they barely beat them, but those are all games that I'm thinking of that they kind of had to win because those were beatable teams. And the fact that they were able to beat those teams, now they are where they are. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Buffalo because they lost against the Jaguars. That's a bad loss on their part. And, I think Buffalo's a really solid team. But I think, the Patriots have just as good of a chance as them to win the division now. And they look well coached and they look prepared coming into these games. And on both sides of the ball, I feel like things are really clicking for the Patriots right now, kind of right when it needs to. When they, at the beginning of the season, they started off the season like 2-5, and nobody really thought that they were going to be, or 2-4. And nobody really thought that they were going to have a chance of, really doing much at all this season. And then they started turning things around. And now everybody's like, okay, here come the Patriots. Here
they come, man. And then, as you said, Bill Belichick, the experience, like you said earlier, the experience of Cam Newton just didn't work out. And then he said, now he's got his quarterback, and Mac Jones is just slowly developing, slowly improving. He's been the best QB out of this rookie class so far because I think he's in the best system. And he fits their system, and he's Tom Brady-like. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady, so nobody in the comments or anything say I didn't say that. I just said that he's Tom Brady-like. He has all the same qualities as Tom Brady, and he'll just continue to develop. And Josh McDaniel in that offense, they'll just continue to develop him, and they're giving him a little bit more free reign. And as you said, we talked about some of the teams at the top with Tennessee, and without Derrick Henry, it's probably going to catch up to them. And we can't forget about the Indianapolis coach and what Jonathan Taylor, man, he's just been balling right now. And, 5 touchdowns. They torched Buffalo, and it just seemed like now if you find a way to beat the Buffalo Bills, maybe is running the football. Now you got to have a dynamic back, but if you run the football and get physical with them, maybe that's what's the way to beat Buffalo. So maybe New England has the recipe to do it. I have a feeling they're going to split. They'll split the two games.
That's what
but it's going to come down. It's going to come down to those two teams. It might come down to the last game of the season.
Yeah, and it's so close right now, and whatever team doesn't win the division, I still think gets a wild card spot at the end of the day, ultimately, because they're both really solid teams. So that's kind of what I think. But what do you think that Mac Jones, because I've heard a lot of talk about this too, do you think if they make the playoffs that Mac Jones would secure Rookie of the Year?
Ooh, probably. Probably. Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Jamar Chase has been super good. I feel like he's the only one that kind of.
Yeah, I'm looking through the rookies. Jamar Chase, he's the only one. Devontae Smith from my Philadelphia Eagles, he's having a solid year, but they don't give him enough targets to really, especially now that the offense has switched to a running team now, which I've been yelling that forever to run the football with the running backs that we have. And now look, we're starting to click now too. So, but Jamar Chase might be the only other, Micah Parsons maybe from the Cowboys. They might be the top three. And Mac Jones, they might be the top 3 or 4, I think, for Rookie of the Year. But if they make the playoffs and they make some noise in the playoffs, it's a very big possibility he can win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, which is crazy because going into the draft, a lot of Patriots fans didn't want Mac Jones. They wanted
Yeah.
somebody like, Trey Lance or
Hmm.
Justin Fields, which, I do still think Justin Fields is going to end up being pretty good. But
Yeah.
Trey Lance, we haven't seen enough from him yet. I feel like
Right.
Jimmy Garoppolo's been playing really well, so he hasn't gotten a chance to really start. But it's just crazy to think about the fact that before the draft, Mac Jones was kind of shoved under the rug in terms of, yeah, I mean, we don't really want him. He was kind of just
Hmm.
what they settled for with their pick, but he ended up, I feel like, being the best quarterback in that draft class that the Patriots could have picked for their system.
Yeah, definitely. And the 49ers, they were the only other team at that moment that wanted Mac Jones. So he was highly regarded, but then, like you said, then they picked up Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, went number one. So Justin Fields, he's just in a bad situation right now with the Bears, and they're just a bad team, just a terrible team.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and they can't protect him and anything. But we've shown glimpses of what he could be. He said Trey Lance is just not getting the time, and the 49ers are starting to win again too. So he's going to be sitting, especially for maybe to the end of the year. He's going to sit the rest of the year. So Mac Jones, he got once they got rid of Cam, it was his offense. It was definitely his offense, and they built the offense around him. So he's a definite rookie of the year candidate for sure.
Yeah, and his football IQ, I think you and I have talked about this before
Mm-hmm.
too. He has a really, really good football IQ and that ability to recognize what's going on the field around him and know what to do with the football in certain situations. He doesn't really freeze up like Cam did because Cam would just kind of stand there and not really know what to do, whereas Mac can anticipate a lot of things and kind of think on his feet more and knows what to do with the football. He's just very, very smart in that way.
Yeah, very cerebral, and that's the Tom Brady quality, and they're running that same offense, and you can't stop it. They're so good. Johnny Daniels is so good as an offensive coordinator. He fits the strengths of what he presents to his quarterback, and he's doing it. And yes, you guys had the luxury of Tom Brady for so many years, and he became the GOAT and everything. He put up a great performance again last night as well. Really good performance with the Bucks coming back and whipping the Giants. But now Belichick is like, hey, I got my quarterback for the next 10 plus years again. And like I said, if they win the division, it's like I would not be surprised because they're the New England Patriots.
Yeah, exactly. And Belichick will find a way, I feel
He'll
like
find a
too.
way.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, these next few games they have are going to be super important
Yeah.
to determine a lot of that. They're playing some tough teams coming up, so those are going to be a test. Some other genuinely good, AFC contenders that they
Mm.
might have to see down the road. So these are going to be a big test for them. But I think, like you said, I think the AFC is wide open right now. I can't really identify one team that I'm like, yeah, this team is the favorite over all the other teams for me to confidently say this is my team that I would pick to come out of the AFC right now. I think, there's a lot of teams that have a chance. Like, you said Baltimore, obviously the Titans, the Colts, I think are still a little underrated.
Yeah.
I think if they're healthy, they can do some damage too. I think Carson Wentz is in a good situation over there. And I think, there's definitely, and then obviously Kansas City and the Chargers. I think
Yeah.
the Chargers, I mean, I think I said this on Twitter to somebody the other day. I said, I really want the Chargers to win that division because I think they're a more fun team to watch than the Chiefs right now. And I think as of right now, they look like a better overall team. But what's your take on that division? Because that whole division right now is interesting to watch.
It is, and it's interesting because Vegas and Denver are both 5-5, so they're only a game
Yeah,
and a half
exactly.
behind. So, but the way the Chiefs, the slow start and the struggles offensively, the struggles defensively that they were having in the beginning of the year, and Patrick Mahomes really forcing and really trying to take those big shots down the field, and they're limiting him from that. Then he had a big game was Sunday, not this Sunday, but the last Sunday, he had 5 touchdowns against the Raiders in prime time. So it was like, okay, he's back. And then against Dallas, it was the defense. So the defense has improved over there with the Chiefs. I still feel like they're the best team in that division. As much as the Chargers are definitely good, but with Justin Herbert and with the running game and the receivers he has, I love that that Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. He'll still be. I think they're going to end up turning around. They'll figure it out, but they're grinding out wins. I think they won 5 straight, I believe now. So that's scary. And he still could turn. I think he can still turn it on, and they'll click at the right time. So, but they're winning despite him struggling. They're still winning, and defensively, they're playing much better. If they can continue to play better on the defensive side, and they turn back to the old Chiefs offensively, they'll be probably the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah, so you still think ultimately they'll end up winning that division?
Yeah, I think so. And much as, like I said, much as the Chargers are right on their heels, and I think you're right. I think there's some elements of the Chargers that are better than the Chiefs. They do match up, definitely, but I think the experience of the Kansas City Chiefs, and you still have Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback player in the league, will turn around. And they got good coaching too. They got Andy Reid still as well. Yeah. So they'll figure it out. But if their defense is playing well, and then Patrick Mahomes gets going again, they'll be a scary team in the playoffs.
Yeah, and people were saying at the beginning of the season, the Chiefs are a wash. They're done. Yeah. But it's hard to get behind that when they have Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. It's just really hard to feel like, and with the weapons he has around him, it's like, so you're saying that a team that has Patrick Mahomes and like Travis Kelce and like Tyreek Hill, a team like that is not going to turn things around at some point in the season. I just find that hard to believe.
Yeah, and they're winning despite that. They're winning because of now Patrick Mahomes. He's been making a lot of mistakes. And he knows that, but he did say, "I'm going to take chances. I'm going to keep taking chances. I want to take those big shots." But maybe it's not as explosive as we're accustomed to seeing the last couple of years. But if he just continue to learn, like, okay, we can just have these big long drives, 10, 12, 14 plays, because we have so many weapons, and like the defense is just flying all over the place making plays. That's a scary thing, and because they still have that in their arsenal where they can make that big play. On and on. Like, even when they were struggling, I wasn't on the panic button, hitting the panic button for them. As you said, they still have Patrick Mahomes. And so exactly. It's not like he forgot to play football. It's just that, they're figuring some things out. They're taking away the big plays. But now, as I said, he could go back and have a 5-touchdown game, and then all that will be wiped out. So, yeah, I really do like the Chiefs still to this day. I don't think they're head above shoulders to everybody in the AFC, but they're definitely playing. They're playing some pretty good football right now.
Yeah, and that's what's different about this year, I feel like, because the last couple of years it really was kind of KC and then everybody else in the AFC.
Right.
They were the definite favorite, but now I think there's more teams that can match up with them, and I really do think that losing to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl and realizing that there's a way to beat Kansas City kind of changed a little of their momentum going into this season, because before it was like, can anybody stop them? Can anybody stop that offense? Right. And then when the Bucs figured out a way to do it, it's almost like, how much did that affect them going into this season?
You're right. And the thing is, if all the rest of the teams that we talked about, Tennessee, the Colts, or New England, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati, those top teams, they don't want to go to Arrowhead. I mean, none of those teams want. They cannot let Kansas City get the number 1 seed, because if they go to this, it's still a tough place to play. I mean, the Cowboys just figured that out. It's a tough place to play, especially in the playoffs. They get number 1 seed and they get a time to rest, because now we know there's one team now that gets the bye. It's the top team with 7 teams and going to the playoffs. So we can't have they cannot get to. I mean, they can win on the road, but you don't want to go to Kansas City. You don't want to go to Arrowhead. Any of those teams really don't want to go to Arrowhead. But you're right. But I think the Bucs figured out this is the way to beat them. You got to beat up on their offensive line, which is much better than it was, which was much better than it was in the Super Bowl. So you want to attack, and you want to keep Patrick Mahomes, try to keep him contained as much as possible. Or you got to be a team that can be physical with them, because they're still a finesse team. So you want to be real physical, and some of those teams are very physical. New England's physical, Baltimore's real physical. The Titans can be physical, the Colts can be physical. The Colts can really be physical because they got the running game. I'm believing in the Indianapolis Colts, and yes, I am a Carson Wentz fan. I was and still is, and as long as he don't make mistakes. And he just hands the football off, and he makes plays. He just got to still make plays. But if he ended the football to Jonathan Taylor, the Colts could actually, I don't know, they could. I don't think they're on the table, but they could definitely make some noise if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're one of those teams that, if they get a wild card spot and they get
Yeah,
themselves in, if they're playing really good football at that time, I think they actually could do damage with other teams because that could be a tough team to beat when they're playing their best football and everybody's healthy. And
yeah,
that's another big thing too, is like health. And I think with
yes,
them, they're one of those teams that, yeah, with Carson Wentz, I think that he's been playing pretty well there. And, he's in a system that I think kind of works for him. So if everybody stays healthy there, I think they have a chance. But, the Titans are still going to win that division. But I think
yeah.
the Colts have a genuine shot of being, more than just a first round exit if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, because they got the running game, and we talk about defense. They have solid. They have solid receivers, and like if Wentz don't make those mistakes that he's accustomed to,
Yeah.
they're solid. They're a solid football team, and they got a good offensive line, but they're running the football so effectively with Jonathan Taylor, who now is getting MVP. Consideration, which he should. He had a 5-touchdown game, and I have him on one of my fantasy teams, one of my money league fantasy teams. He was my second round pick. My second round pick because I had got Christian McCaffrey, and then I picked Jonathan Taylor. So now with Christian McCaffrey back, I'm just running it. I'm just keep giving the ball to both of them. I can ride to get this money. But yeah. So, but Jonathan Taylor, yeah, he's playing well, and yeah, the AFC is so wide open. I could see a lot of teams making a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And I think that's what makes it exciting and what's going to make it exciting down the stretch. But I feel like the NFC is kind of the same way too. I mean, Obviously Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay, but I don't see it as just Tampa Bay and then everybody else. I mean, like, do I think the Bucs have a good shot at going back to the Super Bowl? Definitely. I think obviously they're a really good football team, and I can't ever bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. We all know that by now.
Right.
But the Bucs, I genuinely do think have a good chance still, but I think there's other teams in the NFC too that could give them a run for their money. I mean, even in your division with the Cowboys, I mean, they obviously are kind of running away with that division, but do you think that they can genuinely make a deep playoff run?
I think so, because they're good on both sides of the football. I think they're good on offense, they're good on defense. They have an explosive offense. If they can stay healthy, they definitely have an explosive offense. And now their defense is playing well. Like they just went into Arrowhead, and yes, they didn't play well offensively. They limited the Kansas City Chiefs to 19 points. So their defense can win games for them, but it's just the Cowboys. That's what it is. It's always the Cowboys. And it's one of those things, like when they play those big primetime games, playoff type games, they can seem like they just can't get over the hump. And it seems like it's like that every single time with the Cowboys. You believe in them.
Yep.
And we think they're so good. And then I was giving them a lot of praise. It's hard for me to give them praise, but I was giving them so much praise and saying, yeah, they got a good shot to make a run in the playoffs. But I don't know. I think they can definitely do it. I think it's all about the matchups, though. I think if they get a matchup against Tampa Bay the first round or something like that, then maybe the Rams. That's I think that's another bad matchup. If it gets into a shootout, the Rams are more than capable, even without Robert Woods getting hurt. They definitely have more than enough weapons to keep up with them, with the Cowboys. So you say Tampa Bay, Green Bay, they're tough. Arizona, I still like Arizona with a healthy Kyler Murray. I think they're the best team in the NFC still. So, but there's some teams. This whole NFC AFC is so wide open.
Yeah, you think you'd put the Cardinals ahead of the Rams when it comes to a Super Bowl run?
I do. I really do. I think yes, because if Kyler Murray is healthy and his weapons are healthy, DeAndre Hopkins stay healthy, because they were playing so much good. They were playing really good football. They might be undefeated if Kyler Murray doesn't get injured.
They might actually.
Yeah, they lost the game to Green Bay on a play where AJ Green did the whole thing where he didn't turn around and Kyler Murray threw in the end zone and got intercepted the last play of the game, and he thought it was a run, so he's blocking, and so that's a win. And then the other loss is with their backup quarterback, and they lost with McCown. So those are the two losses that they have. So I still feel like they might be the best team, but I'm not going to sleep on the Rams though. Not at all. Not all those big names and weapons they have too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Rams are good. They originally going into the season were my pick to come out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. I was like, I just think if they're all fully healthy over there, there's just a lot of talent over there and they're well coached. And I think they have a genuine chance,
They
you
do
know?
got a chance.
And I think, obviously Matthew Stafford, I mean, like that situation is, I think, a good situation for him.
Oh my goodness, yeah, definitely. And I think this is what everybody was wanting to see from Matthew Stafford. It wasn't him. It was Detroit Lions and that bad situation. So not really having anything around him except for Calvin Johnson at that time. But other than that, he didn't really have anything to work with. And we see what Detroit's doing now. They can't win a football game and anything. So for the Arizona, I said McCown. I meant to say Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy won those two. Yeah, I said Josh McCown. Colt McCoy won those two road games for Arizona. So, and that's big. That's huge. So they got a capable backup just in case Murray. But Kyler Murray should come back healthy, and they could go on a run. But, yeah, the Rams are going to be tough, and especially in that division with their game and a half behind. I still think it comes down to those two teams in that division because, yeah, the 49ers are coming up. Seattle's struggling really bad. I think they've lost their opportunity. I think they've had their chances, with their Super Bowl run and even afterwards. I think it's just running out. Russell Wilson might get traded. I heard that there was rumors today of him leaving Seattle. So, maybe this was their last run. But yeah, the Rams and Matthew Stafford and those weapons, they just got Odell Beckham. Once he learns the playbook and things like that, they'll definitely be tough.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like with his first game there and they lose against the 49ers. Not only lose, but like get, kind of smoked.
Crushed. Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this must have been what he had in mind by coming here.
Yeah.
But, I think that was huge for them. That was a big move. I think I'd love to see that matchup in the postseason, Cardinals versus Rams.
That would be good. And they got to play again. They have to play. The Cardinals already beat them early in the year, but they have to play again. And that's going to be that's going to come down to probably the last couple of weeks to see. And they could be going for the number one seed again. And we can't count on the Packers either. They still got Aaron Rodgers. No matter what you think of him and all the things he's been doing, he's still a talented quarterback. And they lost to Minnesota. It's a divisional game, so those things happen. But Aaron Rodgers, they were playing really good football, and they're going to be a tough out too. So the Packers are definitely in the mix, and he said the Cowboys and Tampa Bay and Arizona. I think those are the top teams, and the Rams, the top 5 teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, it'll be interesting to kind of see how that all unfolds. And it's crazy the strides that Arizona took from last year, too. Because Arizona was on the cusp last year of even making the postseason originally. And so it's just crazy that they made all these strides to this year and are now looking like a favorite in the NFC.
They are definitely a favorite. And like I said, they could be 10-1 or 11-0 right now with good health. Which is crazy, yeah, especially the way this season has unfolded. It's unfolded the way where good teams are losing. And I know it's a different type of season, but good teams are losing to bad teams. And it happens every week. So I'm never surprised when a good team loses. But now is the time where, like we said, it's a stretch run. I think Tampa Bay is going to make that run. There's basically similar, like they're doing the same thing they did last year. They were 7-5 last year, and then they went on a run. They're 7-3 now. They had lost 2 in a row. They went on a bye. They had a bye, and then they just beat the Giants last night. And now they could actually, and then that division, they're 2 games ahead of the Saints. The Saints are playing with their basically third-string backup quarterback, and the Eagles just went right through them this week. So nobody's going to really test them in that division, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think they pretty much have that division locked up for sure. And it's just, but there's going to be other teams in the NFC that they run into, in the playoffs that could be tough for them. I don't think it's going to be an easy road for Tampa Bay like it was last year. And I mean, last year it really wasn't an easy road, but the teams that they played, it wasn't really as much of a challenge, really, but they did win all these games on the road last year in the postseason, only to play in the Super Bowl at home. So that was crazy.
Yeah. You're talking about that run. It's interesting. They beat Washington. They beat a Washington football team where Washington was only, I think they beat one. They were like a couple plays away for actually beating Tampa
For the
Bay.
backup quarterback.
Yeah, with Heineke. Yeah, with
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke. So you had that run, and then you had the Saints who were in the lead of that game, and it took the turnovers. There was a fumble and 2 interceptions by Drew Brees. So that's what got Tampa Bay to win that game. And then
The Packers.
the Packers were the Packers played probably their worst game of the year in the first half, and then Tom Brady. I mean, Tampa Bay was all over Aaron Rodgers at the first half, and then Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions in the second half, and they still pull it off. So there are a couple of plays from losing that game. So yeah, they ran on a good run, and then they beat Kansas City. They found the recipe, as you said earlier. They found the recipe to how to contend against Patrick Mahomes, and so they won. So yeah, it was a great run, but it wasn't like this dominant, run. As they said, the teams who they played, it's a couple bounces here and there. They're not in the Super Bowl, but they have Tom Brady. So it's like, and they had a really good defense.
Exactly. Their defense kind of showed up. Their defense was not good at the beginning of the season last year either. Then they kind of showed up towards the later half of the season and into the playoffs. So I think that was good. And Bruce Arians seemed to adjust a lot of stuff, halfway through the season, because then we really saw a change in that Bucs offense as well. So I think, there were changes made, and then they went on that run. And I think, obviously they have a good chance again this year, but there's other competitive teams in the NFC. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how that all plays out. But what are your thoughts on just the Eagles season this year in general? Do you think that this is about what you expected, or is it not quite what you expected?
I didn't have high expectations this year. I was just seeing if they can make some, improvements throughout the year. And now they're actually showing that they are making some improvements throughout the year. Like, I just wanted to see, just kind of like evaluate the year. I didn't think they were going to win so many games. I went into the season just with an open mind, saying, "Okay, we're gonna probably we're gonna be really bad." But surprisingly, they're starting to play with a lot of heart. The coaching now is because it's new coaching. Sirianni, he's finally starting to like, okay, now what type of team are we going to be? I think he was trying to make Jalen Hurts something that he's not. He's trying to make him a pure pocket passer, and that's not what Jalen Hurts is. He never was. He wasn't that in college. He's not that now. He has to make plays with his legs and be able to have an offense that's catered to him, like running the football. And now the Eagles, it took them about 7 weeks, but now they're actually consistently running the football, and they're running the football, really well. They got now 4 running backs now. Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, what's his name that just came back? Miles Sanders. Just came back because he's our most talented back. So he just came back off injury. So Kenneth Gainwell. So they got four really solid running backs, and they're running the football. The offensive line is playing tremendous now. They're getting healthy, and we're seeing it. They're averaging like over 175 yards running. And then on top of that, Jalen Hurts is running football. So they've won 3 out of their last 4. They are starting to play very well. Defense is starting to play well. And they were in games. Throughout the season, they were in games. It was just very up and down, so very consistent. I wasn't seeing anything. I'm like, okay, I don't see no improvements on any side of the football. Jalen Hurts wasn't playing well. He was up and down, but I wasn't like trying to like tear him up because this is basically his rookie year. Quite frankly, it's 15th start, so he's basically a rookie. So, but now they got an offense that they're actually running the football, and like I said, the offensive line's playing well, so they're doing okay. They're doing okay. I know fans around here, they're saying playoffs. I say let's slow down a little bit. It's not playoffs yet. We're improving a lot, but let's get to 500. We're 5-6. Get to 500. Our schedule is very, very good. Our schedule is really where they can actually win a lot of games. They got the Giants twice. They got Washington twice. They got Dallas. So they got 5 divisional games still left. So they got a really good chance if they can continue to play like they've been playing. I think the sky's the limit, but I just wanted to see improvement, and I'm finally seeing it.
Yeah, and I think, going to the playoffs this year might be a bit of a stretch just with the how many good teams are in the NFC.
Right.
But even if they don't make the playoffs, I feel like they're trending in the right direction, which I feel like should make fans happy because obviously, nobody really knew what to expect going into this season from them. And I think people thought it was going to be a lot worse than it actually is. So they're trending in the right direction, which should make people excited about, next year and the future, even if they don't go to the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and then you're right. That trend, yeah, if you could trend and you're evaluating the young players that you do have, which they do have some talented players on the team, and then now, and they're going to have 3 first-round picks next year. As long as Carson Wentz continues to play, they're going to have hit their pick, and they got the Miami Dolphins pick, and they had their own pick. So they just continue to get pieces, continue to keep trending in the right direction. And hey, if you make the playoffs as one of those last wild card teams, I mean, yeah, I'm going to be super excited. I'm just glad to see that the team is actually coming together, and maybe Sirianni, he's getting it now. He's starting to finally know, okay, this is how the coaching goes. I got to really play to my strengths or coach to my strengths with who I have on the roster. And you got to let Jalen Hurts. He's, like I said, he's a good leader. He's always been that in college. You can, like I say, he can run. He's a hard worker, definitely. He has his flaws. He's just not accurate. The deep ball has not been his strength. He's not accurate with the deep ball, but he's still learning. So, but the one thing you can say about Jalen Hurts, he doesn't give up. He doesn't quit. He makes plays. I mean, that's the thing he can do. He can make plays. You just can't let him just sit back in the pocket and just throw the football 40, 50 times. It's not in his strength. Got to let him have a good running game. And like I said, the schedule is very favorable with the Giants, the Washington football team, and then they got the one game with Dallas, and they got the Jets too. They got Giants and Jets back to back. So the Eagles can actually win some games if they continue to play like they've been playing the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, and they and it's not like they've beaten just these cakewalk teams that basically games you can pencil in as wins. They're beating competitive teams. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of promising for them too. And I think, based on their schedule going forward, anything can really happen. And there's still a lot of games left to be able to really say, hey, maybe they can make the playoffs. I wouldn't rule anything out right now, but if they're playing how they are right now, they could squeeze in.
They could definitely squeeze in. And you said they beat the Saints last week, where the Saints had the number 1 rushing defense, and the Eagles had one of the top rushing offenses. So something had to give. They took it right to them. So the offensive line is really good. If they can just stay physical and just out physical teams, and Jalen Hurts just limits mistakes, and the defense makes plays, that the Eagles could make a run. But I'm gonna slow down and see what they do the next couple of weeks, and then I can say, okay, we're above 500. We'll see what all these other teams ahead of us, because I don't think they're going to catch Dallas in the division, but they're right there with the Minnesota Vikings, those type of teams that are right in the middle of the NFC. So the Eagles could definitely make a run because of their schedule.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see, because if they start losing games against some of those teams, and it's like, well, then what the heck are we doing?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yes, you could definitely see them maybe losing a game or two, but if you lose to the Jets and you lose to the Giants twice, you lose to Washington twice, then it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, now we have to start over again, and then everybody be calling for Jalen Hurts, and they just get rid of him and get rid of Sirianni, and you just want to see improvement. I just want to see some improvement. If we don't make the playoffs, at least if they can just continue to trend, and then they can keep building in the draft, and then we can improve, and then maybe we'll be back on top of the division in the next couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those are really good expectations to have, but definitely there's a chance. So that's why it's going to be interesting to see how these last, however many weeks are left of the season, like 7 left of the season, however that plays out. Because I think anything could really happen still. And, teams that are hot right now might not be hot 3 weeks from now. So it's going to be interesting to just see how everything plays out there, from that perspective. But I do want to switch gears a little bit, but kind of since we, I could talk about football really
definitely.
But I do want to quickly here, get your perspective on just basketball season so far, and what you've seen from the East, what you've seen from the West, and maybe some early teams that are emerging as kind of, contenders based on what you've seen so far.
Oh my goodness, this season's been crazy good. And it's like, I mean, the beginning of this year, and I did my NBA preview I think me and you were talking about a little bit of the NBA before the season started on my show, and we were talking about what teams we thought could actually contend, have a realistic chance. I know we talked about the Brooklyn Nets and the Lakers and all the top teams that we thought was going to be there. But then I think we both said the Golden State Warriors, which has been, to me, not a huge surprise. Maybe their record is a surprise of how they started. They're 15-2, and they're doing this without Klay Thompson healthy at all. He hasn't played in 2 years. But to me, that's one of the biggest, I wouldn't say surprise, but it's one of the biggest trends of this team is dominating. They're dominating on both ends of the floor. They went back and started playing some defense, and it's tough because those young players, along with Curry, along with Draymond and Iguodala, they're playing so well, and Curry's just putting his team on his back and playing MVP basketball. I think he went into this season, last couple of years, he went into this season basically saying, don't forget about me. I'm one of the top players to ever play this game. I am Chef Curry. I can cook whenever I want to cook. He says,
I'm still here.
I'm still here. I haven't left. I'm a 2-time MVP. I am a 3-time champion. I haven't left. I'm still here. I'm still can play, still can shoot, still can light it up. And that's what he's doing. And he's been, the Golden State Warriors have been just unbelievable. And then, as I said, they get Klay back. I just read that Klay's practicing now fully with the team. So they're going to be scary. They're going to be scary. If he comes back and Klay Thompson is even 90% what he was, 85% of what he was, Golden State Warriors are going to the championship. They're going to the finals. I really believe that. The West is tough because the Phoenix Suns now at a 1-3 start, 1-2 start. I think they won like 11 straight. So
yeah, the Suns are going to be good again. They're still a team that this year I'd say have a good chance again.
Yes, they're tough, and like I said, they won 10. I think they won 10 or 11 straight. The last I checked, they won 10 straight. So after their slow start, they finally now thinking, okay, this is the team that made the finals. So
yeah,
they'll be tough. The Lakers, I'm a little surprised of how uneven their season's been. I knew they were going to struggle from the beginning, but then LeBron's been out, and now he's suspended for a game for that incident. Oh my goodness, that was crazy. But he's been hurt. He's been injured, and they're trying to figure out the Westbrook thing, and so they're trying to figure it out. The Clippers have been good, Utah. So those are some of the teams. The Chicago Bulls really playing well. They're second place in the East. They're playing very well with DeRozan and Lonzo Ball and everything. And I can't the Wizards, like, man, I didn't think they were going to be this good.
They came out of nowhere this year, I feel like, too. They were definitely not a team I expected to be as good as they are right now.
Not at all. And I did not expect them to be that good. Losing Westbrook, maybe that was a good thing. It's like they lost Westbrook, and I love Bradley Beal. He stayed loyal to. He's such a tremendous superstar player. Stay loyal to Washington. So they got the Wizards are playing very well. Miami, Jimmy Butler, now they came off that bubble hangover because they had a decent year last year, but they got put out in the first round, a lot of injuries and things like that. But Jimmy Butler's taking his team on his back, and they're playing well. So yeah, those are some of the teams that has really surprised me or got to a good start.
Yeah, the Wizards for sure. I really was like, well, I'm not really sure. They lost Westbrook. That might not be a good situation for them. They kind of just, lost some pieces, but it just seems like everything worked out for the best, the better for them because they're playing really good basketball. And they're definitely one of those teams that I don't think people would have put in one of their teams in the East that they thought could be really competitive this year. And so that's been definitely a surprise to me. For sure, too. I think some teams, obviously, we knew like Brooklyn, was going to be up there in the East. And, Miami, they're an interesting team for sure, too. I think, like you said, they had that bubble hangover.
Yeah.
I think they're an interesting team to watch this year, too. There's obviously a lot of talent over there, and they're going to be competitive. I think in general, I still think the West is overall a lot stronger than the Eastern Conference, but I think there's definitely some teams in the East that, have a shot. I think the Knicks are an interesting one to watch this year too. I think they've been a little inconsistent so far, but I think overall, like if they can figure that out, they can be a really scary team too, because there's talent over there. I just don't think they've really quite there are some things they still have to figure out because they're really inconsistent because they've lost some bad games and they've won some really good games. So I think it's the inconsistency with a team like the Knicks right now.
Yeah, you're right. And then that's the Knicks, they're 9-8, so they're about 500. So it's a little above 500. So yeah, they've been inconsistent. I think the Atlanta Hawks have been inconsistent.
Yeah.
Even the Bucks, they're even though they're 10-8, yeah, they're starting. I mean, Giannis is playing MVP basketball like always, but I know Middleton was out with COVID and they've had some injuries too. So slow start for them. I still like them in the East. I picked them to come out of the East again. So but it's going to be tough because that top half of the East now, you got the Bulls, you got the Charlotte Hornets. They've been very good. So it's there are a lot of teams that are inconsistent. Like we said, the Lakers are inconsistent. Portland's been inconsistent, and Memphis, and so there's so many teams that's so inconsistent, and we just thought like some of these teams were going to be like right at the top. Brooklyn, yes, they are at the top, but they're not playing to that. They're winning games, so I guess I can't say that they're playing inconsistent, but you're not one of those teams. They're not one of those teams that you fear anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not scared of Brooklyn right now at all.
Yeah. So not at all. And then I think they are definitely missing Kyrie. They're still talented enough they could actually win without Kyrie, but man, they could use them. I tell you that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's still so early. So I still feel like some of these teams are going to figure this stuff out kind of as the season progresses. But definitely some of these early surprises are something to keep an eye on down the road if that's something that they can maintain. I mean, my Celtics are like, not great right now, like middle of the pack, like more towards the bottom. But they're a team that like is showing improvement. I mean, even from what I've seen in games lately, they're showing improvement, and their bench has actually been performing pretty well, which is something I haven't been able to say about the Celtics the last few years in particular. Right. They did not really have a lot of depth on their bench, but their bench is really coming into games and really performing and pulling a lot of the weight when Jaylen Brown was out. A lot of the bench, and now he's back, so that's nice. And a lot of people are saying, well, I don't think the Jaylen Brown Jason Tatum combo is going to work down the road, but I completely disagree with that sentiment. Like I'm completely on the side of we need both of them on this team, and the team needs to be built around them because I think they are the future and they are the people that will lead this team to a championship. And so I really strongly disagree with the people who think that, that you need to get rid of one of them and separate the two of them. I think that they are the glue that holds the team together, and they're ultimately the players that you need to build a team around.
Definitely. I think you have to have Tatum and Brown to contend. And they're figuring it out. They're trying to figure it out. I think you got to give them at least this year before we could say, okay, it's not going to work. Now, I think the Celtics are going to be that 6, 7, 8 seed because the East is so wide open this year too. As you said, like now, yes, it's still early. Will the Bulls still be winning games like this? Can they continue to improve throughout the year? I think they can with the staying healthy. They definitely could. So you got teams that are jumping ahead of the Celtics. I think Miami, and I think, like I said, the Bucks they'll figure it out. I think Brooklyn will actually still be one of the top 2 teams in the East. So you got those teams like the Wizards. There's another team like the Bulls. Like, can they continue to stay hot and continues to build? And the Charlotte Hornets, can those type of teams, the Knicks, continue to build and get beyond the Celtics? But yeah, the Celtics definitely need Brown and Tatum. That's their 1-2 punch, and I don't see, even if they traded someone like a Jaylen Brown, they would have to get something for him. And I know the Ben Simmons saga he's supposed to be going everywhere. So
there was always like this team's expressing interest or he wants to go here, but it's like, that whole thing is just crazy. I don't really realistically know where he does end up. And the Sixers are asking for a lot for him. And certain teams, like the Celtics being one of them, I just don't think have the assets to offer them what they're looking for Ben Simmons. And so I think it's just a matter of, are there teams that feel like that's worth it to give up assets that they do have for a player like Ben Simmons?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think the Sixers are being like hard-headed. They got it. It's interesting because I think they have to cut bait. Because he doesn't want to be there. He says he's dealing with mental health issues, which, that whole story of he wanted to see his own doctor, but the Sixers were trying to help him. They're like, wait, we're paying you money. You're on our roster. You got to come to see our team physician, our team doctor, and that whole thing. And I don't know. They just want to make sure that you're dealing with, if you're dealing with it, dealing with the team doctor. But and now I think his value is very low. It's not what it was 2 years ago, just because of his playoff performance. And he's not making his value any better because he's being suspended. He's not there. He doesn't want to be there. And, he doesn't really have much leverage. And it's going to take a team probably like a Minnesota or Sacramento I think that's where he would actually go. I don't think he's going to go to like a Celtics or Brooklyn because nobody wants to give up a Jaylen Brown. Nobody's going to give up a Kyrie Irving or a James Harden because Ben Simmons is not worth that. He's not worth that now. And if he's not playing any games, he's not building his value at all either. So, his reputation is not good. It's not good right now. And so all of a sudden he would go get traded and he says, oh, I can play. So it's not a good look. And I don't know what they're going to do with him. He might not get traded. He might sit up the whole year. It's looking like that.
I kind of feel like that is what's going to end up happening because I don't think a lot of teams are, jumping at the opportunity to trade for Ben Simmons right now.
Yeah, the Sixers got to get whatever they can for it. I know they're looking for a superstar player. They're not going to get that. I think they're looking for a superstar player in return. And I'm not saying not, for the Sixers part, you want to get something for him. He's still a talented player, an all-star caliber player he plays, tremendous defensively. And he can handle the ball at that point guard position and run the floor, run the break, but it's the lack of shooting or, lack of not shooting the basketball. And I think that's what hurts him. And so it's not like he can't shoot. He just won't shoot. And I think that's what's going to hurt him. And now the attitude's coming in, the attitude problem's coming in there now too. Is he a bad teammate? And he just needs to change. He needs to change the scenery. I think the Sixers just need to get something, what they can, if it's a deal for something. I know they're looking at De'Aaron Fox, and I know Sacramento don't want to get rid of him either. But if there's something like that, you take that and maybe straight up, maybe with a couple draft picks, and you could take what you can get for Ben Simmons. If not, they're going to just have to pay him salary. He's not going to play.
Exactly. That's just a waste at the end of the day. But I feel like that might end up happening. And, I think you're right. I just don't think Philly is the place for him. I think if he has a change of scenery and is just with a new team, he might actually, see some success and be, happier in another situation. I just don't necessarily think Philly was it for him. And it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I do have a feeling that nothing's going to play out and he's just going to end up being there and just not playing. Yeah.
And just getting paid. And, they fined him, they've suspended him. And, and it's funny, every time they suspend him or fine him, he ends up showing up because he doesn't want to lose all that money. Like he's making a lot of money and he don't want to lose a couple hundreds of thousands of dollars of not showing up for team functions, team events, or just being with the team, just traveling with the team. And he doesn't want to be there. He's telling you he doesn't want to be there. And I know he has 4 years left on that big deal, that big contract, but they got to cut bait. Unfortunately, they got to cut bait and they got to get something for him. And I'm with you. I don't think the more games they play, we're getting to like the fourth of the season right now, and it gets the All-Star break, and he's still on the roster, and he hasn't played. He's not going to get traded.
Teams are going to be like, well, why would what good would he do for this team?
Right? Is he in shape?
Why should we make that move?
Yeah, is he in good shape? What's his what's his mental looks like? Like, does he want to play anymore? Like, what's his mentality? What's his physical being? He'll have to get in game shape. Like, you're missing a lot of games. No matter if you're practicing, once you get in the games, that's a different thing. You got to play yourself in shape, and he could definitely help the team in the right situation. But I have a feeling they might just sit him out the whole year.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but unfortunately, he kind of put himself in this situation. So,
yeah, definitely.
It just is what it is for him at this point. But I just don't see any team jumping at the opportunity to be like, oh yeah, let's trade so and so and get Ben Simmons. I'm not seeing it because the drama involved with that too is kind of coming into play as well. So it just seems like, there's not a whole lot of good that would come out of that situation. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens as the season progresses with him. And just in general, I think both conferences right now, obviously it's still so early to say what's going to happen, but I think there's a lot of talented teams, especially in the West. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that all plays out and just see if we're having this same conversation, later on in the NBA season, or if it's more like, okay, these are the teams that are favorites that, are really, really playing better basketball than everybody else. But it's been a fun start to the season so far. It's been crazy, like you said. And I'm just kind of excited to see how it progresses.
Right. And like I said, some of those teams, I definitely want to see if the Warriors can they get back to their championship caliber, team. Can they be that championship caliber team? Can Curry continue to keep playing like he's been playing and leading this team? And then when they get Clay and they get Klay Thompson back and James Wiseman too, they get those guys back and they come back, they could go on a really good run. And then, like I said, the Phoenix Suns, some of these teams can they keep it up, or like you said, do we see Brooklyn just running away in the East, or the Bucks coming back and just running away with the East? Do we see those top teams, or the Lakers just coming back and putting it all together, and Westbrook can implement himself into this team, and do they go on a run? And do we see, like I said, do we see those other teams that we're accustomed to seeing, even the Sixers? Can they come back? Because Joel Embiid's been out with COVID for the last 2 weeks, and I haven't heard anything. He must have got it really bad because
I haven't either.
Coming back, and they haven't said much about him coming back. So I don't know. Like, he must have got it really, really bad, or he's recovering very slowly. But they were at the top of the East before. They had a lot of their players get either hurt or had COVID, and they now have struggled, and they've got fallen back in the pack too. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm very excited to see how this season plays out.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, I'm still pulling for the Suns in the West because I still want to see CP3 get that ring. But
right, yeah, it's a good chance, really good chance, really good
yeah.
chance.
But it'll be fun to kind of see what happens. But yeah, before we kind of close out, could you just let everybody know how they can find you, how they can find your show, and all of that?
Yeah, definitely. You can find the show again on Roku TV. That's one of the main places where you can find it now. Like I said, BS3 TV or BS3 Network. If you just type BS3 Network, Google it, find it there. You can find it on all social media platforms. Follow it on Twitter at Get the Real Deal. You can find it also on Facebook. Find me on all social media platforms as well: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. As like I said, if you type The Real Deal Courtney Harden, it'll just everything pops up now. And with all the guests, like I've had Gabby on many times on the show. I just try to get a variety of different guests on the show, whether they work in media, sports media, authors, chefs. I've had a variety of people on the show. If they got a story to tell, or if they have like a something they want to promote, or anything like that, I just love to have the guests and just have a great conversation with them. So yep, that's where you can find me in the show.
That's awesome. Yeah, everybody definitely follow him. He has a really great show. I love his content. And so everybody definitely check him out on all platforms. As always, I appreciate everyone tuning into Boston Balling week after week. I can't emphasize that enough. Shout out to everybody that tunes in and supports the show. So really appreciate you all. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and I will talk to you all next time.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.